So it was like totally the 80s, and people fully needed a way to like break into comics, you know? So like Jim Shooter and Marvel Comics full on made this thing, the Marvel Comics Tryout Book. Let's take a look at it. Spider-Man does whatever Spider-Man can.
What's up, homies? Ryan Wynn here with a very special episode. I found my official Marvel Comics Tryout Book. I got this in 1986. It was published in 1983. Look at this beautiful John Romita Jr. cover. Goes from pencils to inks to colors. Those lush Al Milgrom inks. Christie Shield colors. It's giant, 11 by 17. You can see I drew eyes in Spider-Man for some reason. Dumb kid. Alright, let's take a look inside. Look at that first page. Yeah, we get a letter from Jim Shooter that's pretty cool. But look at that first page. That's how you start a Spider-Man comic. Got John Romita doing the pencils here. And John Romita had a rule that you never draw Spider-Man touching the ground. He can be touching walls, ceilings, or flying through the air. Alright, let's take a look at this Jim Shooter letter for a second. Just give me a chance. So a lot of good stuff happened under Jim Shooter's watch at Marvel. And one of the things was his tryout book. And Jim addresses some problems that we hear today on Twitter and social media and conventions.
A lot of people want to be Marvel Comics inkers, or writers, pencilers, colorists, or letterers. Fine, I tell them. The comics market is growing like never before. We need more creative people, so send us samples of your work.
Right? That's what you hear? That's not as easy as it sounds, though. Creating a comic book is a team effort. Very seldom does one person do all of the creative jobs. Trying to prove that you're a good inker without professionally penciled pages to work on is like trying to prove you're a good pass receiver without a quarterback to throw your football. He then goes on to explain what the book will be about, which is not about teaching, but about giving a practicing or proving ground. And I also really enjoy this last paragraph. By the way, again, if you happen to be one of those many people who are quite understandably puzzled by the mysterious job titles found in comic book credits, if you've been wondering just exactly what an inker does, for example, this book ought to make it all very clear very quickly. And once you understand what's involved, don't be surprised if you think it looks like fun. Go ahead and give it a try. Good luck, Jim Shooter. I love that, because the craft of comics is fun. It's fun to learn how to ink with a brush and play with a nib, even if you're never really going to make a comic book. If you're just a fan, it's still fun to practice those things and play around with those tools. Just like you don't have to be a professional basketball player to have fun going and shooting some hoops. Jim understood that. Wow, look at that splash page again. All the marker and coloring bits at the bottom, those all have a special place in my heart. Those are all markers and dyes and inks that were found at my grandfather's studio, which is where I did all of this work when I was a kid during the summers. I even signed the page. I already planned a signature, Ryan A. Wynn. Like bolted on little plaque kind of thing. So anyways, check this out. This is cool. So with John Romita, every thwip has its flap. And look at the way Spider-Man comes into action here. Swinging right at you. You got your foreground, your middle ground, your background, all this depth. So cool. This guy, little marveling guy. I love doing stuff like this. And here again, foreground, middle ground, background, depth. But then when Spider-Man enters the action, boom, it's a flash of yellow. No background to slow down this image with action. Quick words, Spidey quip, and then up to the casual observer. Again, foreground, middle ground, background. And the background describes where they are. The background is telling story. These colors are fantastic. These would work in a comic today. You don't need to do rendering on faces. Look, there's backlit, some shadow. You totally feel where she is, and the backlighting works. Up, Spider-Man on the ground, but only so he can throw other people that are on the ground. Here's your thwip. Oh, we don't get to finish because it's not a comic book. It's a tryout book. Like you can see, I was trying out some colored pencils to see if it was the same skin tone. Most of the work I did in here was 12 or 13. I got it when I was 10, but I was too afraid. So be sure to join us in the next episode where we'll look at my coloring samples and what the Marvel Comics Tryout Book provided. I'm glad I found this. I'm glad you've joined me, and let me know if you have any questions, because I can always go back and highlight certain things or focus in more on certain parts of the book. Alright, thanks for joining. Take care.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever Spider-Man can. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a Spider-Man can.
Just give me a chance.
Stupid cat.